He owns my debt, but does he want my heart too? I should have walked out the second I stepped into that office. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline, too clean, too smug. The city glittered behind him like it worked for him, like he owned it. Peter sat there, bathed in dusklight, every inch of him tailored and terrifying. Black suit, sharp jaw, a glass of whiskey swirling slowly in his hand like time bent for him. "You don't have the money," he said, not angry, just stating it. Calm, like we were discussing the weather. I shifted my weight and forced a smile. My best, this is fine grin. "Maybe you'll let it slide? Just this once?" His eyes flicked up. I expected cold. I got something worse. Interest. He leaned forward, placing the glass down with quiet finality. "Or maybe," he said, voice smooth as his tie, "you'll learn there's more than one way to settle a debt." My throat went dry, but I smirked anyway. "You're threatening me?" "If I was," he said, standing now, taller than I remembered, closer than I expected, "you'd know." The air between us cracked, sharp and magnetic. I could smell him, cedar and something darker. Heat curled under my skin. I was supposed to be scared. I was definitely not supposed to be curious. He circled me once, like he was taking inventory, or deciding which part to break first. Then he stopped behind me. Close enough I felt his breath on my ear. "I should call in your collateral," he murmured. "Your car, your equipment, whatever you've got left." "You could," I said, not moving. "But you won't." His voice dipped. "Why not?" I turned, slowly, met his eyes. "Because you want something else." That made him smile. Not warm, not kind. Wicked. "You're not wrong," he said. He stepped forward, and I should have stepped back, but I didn't. His hand ghosted down my arm. Not touching, not quite. "You've got nothing left to give," he said. "Except yourself." I let the words hang. Then I whispered, "Is that what this is? You want to own me now?" Silence. A challenge. And then he chuckled. Low, rich, dangerous. "No, Johnathan," he said. "I want you to offer." He turned and walked back to his desk, calm as ever. And I just stood there. Breath caught, skin burning, heart pounding for all the wrong reasons. I should have walked away. But I freaking didn't. Middle of the night. It came to me like a fever dream. Warm breath on my neck, the low thrum of a voice I almost recognized, and sheets that smelled like cedar and sin. A hotel room, curtains half drawn, the city smeared in gold outside the window. A glass on the nightstand tipped over. Laughter. Mine? His? Hands. Strong. Sure. A touch to my jaw that I didn't ask. A whisper that never made it to words. And a mouth that felt like danger. Then static. Blackout. Nothing. Except the smirk that still haunts me. The echo of his name. I woke up alone, hours later, unsure if I dreamed it, or if I've been trying to forget it ever since. The next day. The worst part of owing money isn't the debt. It's knowing someone like Peter owns the clock in your life. The text started at 6 a.m. By noon, they doubled. By 2 p.m., I was standing outside his office, debating whether to throw myself into traffic or face him again. The receptionist waved me in without a word, like she knew what I was, and worse, what he was going to do to me. Peter sat behind a minimalist glass desk. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his forearms, and he had no tie today. Casual in a way that only rich people manage to look like a threat. "You're late," he said, without looking up. "I'm here." Something in his expression flickered, briefly amused, then unreadable. He poured a second glass of whiskey and slid it across the desk. "You're always this defiant? Only when I'm about to be yelled at." He smiled, a slow, razor-sharp thing. "No yelling today, just math." I sat. The whiskey burned all the way down, which felt appropriate. He watched me like a hunter on his lunch break, relaxed but still armed. "You're out of grace periods," he said. "Your assets won't cover the interest. So tell me, what else do you have to offer?" I raised an eyebrow. "You gonna take my soul next?" He stood and walked around the desk, stopped beside me. "No," he said. "I want something more valuable." His hand reached past me to adjust something on a shelf. Too close, too casual. The brush of his wrist against my shoulder was nothing. Except it wasn't. I swallowed, didn't even flinch. That would have been worse. You twitch, he murmured, like someone who remembers more than they admit. I turned to look at him. What's that supposed to mean? He smiled. Maybe you just have one of those faces. I folded my arms. What do you want, Peter? He stepped close, not touching, just heat and threat and scent. I want the truth, he said. You remember me, don't you? I blinked. From when? He didn't answer, just turned and left with a smirk that gutted me more than any threat could. Evening. The bell above the door gave a hollow jingle when I walked in. The pawnshop was exactly the kind of place where desperation took its last breath. Cracked tile floors, flickering fluorescent lights, a bulletproof window where the guy behind the counter didn't look up when I entered. He'd seen too many of me. I laid the camera down first, my favorite lens next. A flash I swore I'd never sell. My hands hesitated on the mic kit, but I forced them open. You sure? The clerk asked, finally looking up. I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. He rang it up. I didn't even flinch at the insult of the price. Then the front door opened behind me. Heavy footsteps, slow, intentional. I turned and froze. Not Peter, worse. One of his men, big, quiet, face like concrete. He didn't look at me, just stepped beside me, scanned the equipment, and pulled out a wad of cash. All hundreds. He placed it on the counter without a word. The clerk blinked. Sir, he was here first. The man didn't answer, just tapped the stack once and looked at me. Not unkind, not threatening, just efficient. Sold, the clerk muttered, eyes wide. I guess. I didn't say a word. Couldn't. By the time I stepped outside, the guy was gone. So was my gear and my last sliver of control. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. That gear won't do much good in someone else's hands. You're welcome. I stared at the screen, my pulse a tight knot in my throat. I hit call. He answered on the second ring. You smug bastard. A low chuckle. Johnathan. I don't need your charity. It wasn't charity, he said, voice smooth as ever. It was protection. From what? Yourself. A pause, then quieter, more careful. Collateral protection. And maybe, I could hear the smile in his pause. Insurance. For you. My hands clenched. You don't own me. No, he said, unbothered. But I don't like watching my investments spiral either. You mean your debt? I mean you. The line went silent. I didn't hang up. Neither did he. Eventually I did, but I wasn't sure I'd won that one either. Later that night, I tried to forget. The drink in front of me was cheap, watery bourbon in a chipped glass. The kind of liquor that doesn't taste like anything until the fourth one. And by then, it's too late to care. I was in a bar across town. Dim lights, cracked leather booths, a jukebox stuck on something sad from the 80s. Nobody asked your name here. Nobody noticed if you were unraveling at the seams. Perfect. I stared at the melting ice, hoping it would tell me something. Like how the hell I ended up here. Here meaning this moment, this debt, this him. I tried not to think about Peter. About the way he looked at me last. Like he already owned the ending and was just waiting for me to catch up. That damn smirk. Those hands that hadn't even touched me but felt like they had. I swallowed. Another sip. A deeper breath. Just one night of quiet. That's all I wanted. Then I felt it. That pull. Like a magnet behind my ribs. I turned, and there he was. Peter. Leaning against the far end of the bar like he'd been carved into the shadows. Sharp suit, loosened tie. A glass in his hand he hadn't sipped from once. Smirking and watching me. My stomach twisted. Not fear. Something messier. Something I didn't want to deal with. And for a second, something in me blinked. Like there was a room in my head I'd locked and forgotten. I've been trying not to think about that one night I can't remember. Our eyes met, and for a second, I swear, everything else in the room disappeared. Music, voices, the guy next to me trying to flirt with the bartender. Gone. Just me, him, and that unbearable silence between us. I stood, fast, too fast. Dropped some bills on the counter. I didn't even finish my drink. I walked past him, didn't say a word. He didn't stop me. Just turned slightly, followed my exit with his eyes like it was a game. Outside, the call slapped me in the face. Lit a cigarette I didn't want. I kept walking until I couldn't feel the heat of his gaze anymore. Until I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream or laugh or go back in there and ask him why the hell he keeps following me. But I didn't go back. I told myself I won, even though it didn't feel like it. Some hours later, I didn't go home after the bar. I didn't want to be somewhere with walls, so I just walked. Half drunk, fully unraveling, the city spun past in neon streaks and shadow, flickering like the inside of my head, full of memories I hadn't asked for, and one smirk I couldn't shake. Peter. Every time I think I've put him behind me, he reappears like he owns the air I'm breathing. And maybe he does. Maybe he always did. I used to blame the whiskey for that night 2 years ago, the one I forgot on purpose. The one I only remember in flashes now, his mouth on my throat, my fingers in his hair, his voice of velvet threat in the dark. But the way he looked at me tonight, like I still belonged to him, that wasn't a memory. That was now. So yeah, I told myself I could still want other people, that I could move on. And when my friends set me up with someone new, I said yes. Why not? He was nice, soft-spoken, smiled like the world hadn't wrecked him yet. The kind of man who held doors and asked follow-up questions. The kind of man I should have wanted. We went to a quiet little place downtown. Low jazz, lower lighting, a glass of wine I barely tasted. He talked about bridges or architecture or something smart. I nodded. I tried. But all I could focus on was his hands. Steady, gentle. Not the kind of hands that haunted your skin after they let go. Then he reached for mine across the table. A simple touch. Warm. Kind. And I felt it. That flicker behind my ribs. Cold. Electric. Before I even looked up, I knew. Peter. He was there. Leaning against the bar like he'd always been there. Like the whole night had been his idea. One hand in his pocket, the other cradling a drink he wasn't drinking. Watching. His eyes found mine, and everything else, conversation, music, this poor man's hand on mine, evaporated. He didn't smile, not really. He just looked. Possessive, patient. Like he'd waited long enough. You're mine. He didn't say it, but I heard it. The words wrapped around my throat. I'm sorry, the architect said, pulling his hand back like I'd burned him. You okay? I stood too fast. I just need the restroom. I didn't make it to the restroom. I went out the back, and I didn't stop walking. Some minutes later, the alley behind the restaurant was cold and slick with rain. I pressed my back to the brick wall, heart pounding like I'd just run from a crime scene. Maybe I had. I needed to feel something else. Something that wasn't him. Something that wasn't the thrum in my spine that always came with the echo of his name. That's when I saw him. Not Peter. Just a random guy. Tall, dark-haired, smoking under the awning like the world couldn't touch him. The kind of man who didn't ask questions. The kind who didn't need to. I walked up without thinking. Sometimes I kissed strangers just to prove I still had choices. And he let me. His mouth was warm and open, and it didn't taste like memory. It should have helped. It didn't. Because then I felt it. A shift in the air. That weight I knew too well. Like gravity had changed its mind about me. And then a voice. Smooth. Familiar. You really think that'll fix it? Peter. The stranger stiffened. His eyes flicked behind me. And whatever he saw made him step back. I didn't turn. Go away, I muttered, voice ragged. But he didn't. I could feel him stepping closer. I could feel the heat of him at my back, wrapping around me like a warning, or a promise. You don't want him, Peter said. His tone wasn't jealous, or angry. Just final. Certain. I shoved the stranger off. He didn't argue. Just gave me a look I didn't want to name and walked off into the rain like he knew this wasn't his story. It was just us now. Like it always ends up being. "You don't get to follow me," I said, still facing the wall. "You don't get to do this." He moved closer. Close enough to brush the rain from my skin without touching it. "I'm not following you," he said quietly. "You're orbiting me." His fingers touched my jaw, slow, intentional. He turned my face toward him, and for a moment, his expression softened. Almost. "You're mine, Johnathan." I flinched, and he saw it. His smile was small and sharp, like it hurt to wear it, like it still pleased him anyway. I just walked away, fast, hard. 2 blocks later, I punched a lamppost. My knuckles split, and for once, the pain felt clean. A few days later, when he invited me to dinner, I said yes. Not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to win. I chose the sharpest suit I owned. Black clean lines and no tie. Not for elegance, for armor. Every piece of me polished to a blade. Peter, of course, looked effortless. Like he'd been poured into a billion-dollar ad campaign and had the audacity to be unaware of it. Casual, calculated. The crisp white shirt opened just enough to be a warning. "You're late," he said. "You're always early," I replied, taking the seat across from him. He looked at me. Really looked. His gaze dragged over the watch on my wrist and paused, just enough to clock it. Then a smile. Small, real, almost warm. "You kept it." I didn't answer that, just said, "Why am I here?" He just smiled, lifted his wine like a toast he didn't make, and let the silence fill the space between us like fog. Then he said it. "Your debt's gone." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Paid off," he added, swirling his glass. "Anonymous gift. Clean slate." Like it was funny. Like he hadn't signed the check himself with a smirk and the ink of my name still wet on his tongue. "You think this earns you something?" I asked, the words burning their way out of me. Peter leaned in slightly. His voice was silk-laced with threadbare threat. "I think it reminds you who can own you." I stood. "Don't," he said. But there was no command in it. Just a quiet delight. I downed the last of my wine, slammed the glass so hard on the table that it cracked. The room fell silent for a breath. He didn't flinch. But his eyes, those impossible eyes, darkened. Not with shame, with something closer to hunger. I leaned closer, my voice low and shaking. "You don't get to touch every part of my life and call it love." He blinked once, slow, then leaned back, smile unfurling like a devil whispering a prayer. "You're mine." And this time it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like the truth he'd been bleeding for years. I walked out, didn't wait for the check. I didn't look back when I left. But part of me still sees him there, sitting perfectly still, glass untouched, that smile gone slack at the edges. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he finally realized money can't fix what he broke. Or maybe he didn't care. Maybe I just wanted to believe he did. Sighing, the city felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath for me. At home, I locked the door, then the windows, as if that would stop the kind of man who knew how to pick locks in people, not buildings. I sat in the dark for a while, let the silence wrap around me like a blanket made of static. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You can hate me tomorrow, but tonight you're still mine." I stared at it for a long time. Then I powered the phone off and let the darkness take me. The next morning, I woke up around 4 a.m. and didn't sleep much more. Instead, I stood in the dark kitchen, ice melting in a glass I wasn't drinking. My shirt was still half-buttoned from dinner hours ago. The silence wasn't comforting. It scraped. I told myself not to think about him. So, of course, all I could do was think. Every time he leaned close. Every time he whispered, "You're mine," like a curse, like a promise. Every time I let it happen. Not because I believed him, but because some part of me already had. I left the glass on the counter, still half full. Wandered back into the bedroom like I might find some sense there. Instead, I opened drawers, searched for something, anything, I wasn't sure what. That's when I found it. A photo. Blurry, grainy, but real. A shot from a year ago. Club lights, laughing faces. Me, caught mid-smile. And just behind me, blurred but unmistakable, Peter. Not 2 years ago, not someone else, that night. My hands shook when I picked it up. I didn't remember it, not fully. I've been spiraling. Drunk, messy, clawing for an exit in someone else's skin. I told myself we met at the auction. That he was new, that I hadn't already let him in. But I had. I sank to the floor, the edges of the picture digging into my palm. A matchbook tumbled out behind it. A bar name. A receipt. His name, faint but legible, printed at the top. Peter had remembered this the whole time. He'd known who I was. Known that we'd slept together. And he never said a word. I don't know how long I stayed there, looking at the photo. The lie of forgetting unraveling like thread. It wasn't just a game to him. It wasn't new. It was a second chance I hadn't known I was already living inside. Eventually I got up, finished the drink, grabbed my coat and keys, and left. Some minutes later, the building was still lit, of course it was. Peter never slept when other people did. I walked straight past the front desk. No one stopped me anymore. Not here. Not when everyone knew who I was. What I was. His door was open, like he'd been waiting. He didn't look surprised, just leaned back in his chair like I was 10 minutes late to a meeting he hadn't called. "Johnathan," he said. "Don't." I told myself I'd come here for closure, a final confrontation. Maybe I'd throw the photo on his desk, let it slice the silence. But I already knew better. He raised an eyebrow. "Don't what?" I stepped inside, shut the door behind me. "Don't say my name like it still belongs to you." A flicker passed through his expression. Brief, almost fast to catch. But I caught it. "You're angry," he said. "No," I said. "I'm clear." I didn't sit. "I found the photo," I said. "The one from that club, a year ago." His mouth didn't move, but everything else in him stilled. "You were there," I said. "We were together. You kissed me. You slept with me." My voice cracked on the last part. I didn't mean it to. But I didn't remember. And you knew. This whole time. His silence cracked like a pane of ice. Peter stood slowly, carefully. "You were in bad shape that night. You barely knew where you were." "Yeah," I said. "But you did. You remembered me." He didn't answer. "You could have told me. At any point. You could have said something. Anything." He watched me, like always, calculating. But this time, I wasn't a puzzle he could solve. I was a wound he'd ignored for too long. "I don't want anything from you," I said. "No favors, no drinks, no more strings dressed up as kindness. You're acting like I trapped you. You did." The words came hard, fast, too sharp to stop. "You made me feel like I owed you for breathing. Like every time I came close, it was because you allowed it. You made it a game." My voice dropped, low, barely holding, and I lost. "I never made you stay," he said, quiet. "No," I said. "You just made sure I couldn't leave." There was a beat of silence. Then I said it, slow, bitter, like it hurt to be true. "I didn't just fall for your games, Peter." I looked at him, really looked at him. "I fell for you." His face shifted, like something inside him snapped loose, but didn't know where to land. "I fell for the way you looked at me like I already belonged to you. For the way you kissed me like you forgot every rule you'd ever made. I fell." A pause. "And I hate that." His lips parted. No words came. For once, he didn't have a script. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said. And this time it didn't sound rehearsed. "I don't care," I said. "It doesn't matter what you meant. It matters what you did." He stepped forward, slowly, one pace, measured. "You think I don't feel it too?" he asked. "Every time I look at you, I remember how I ruined it before it even started." He swallowed. "I didn't know how to ask you to stay," he said. "So I made you feel like you couldn't leave." There it was. The crack. Small, honest, ugly. I stood there, swallowing whatever was left of my pride. I didn't want to be yours, I whispered. I wanted you to be mine. And I walked out. The hallway swallowed the sound of the door behind me, dull and padded. Carpet underfoot, soft as silence. It muffled everything. My footsteps, my heartbeat, the rays that hadn't burned out yet. It felt like walking through a hotel for the dead. Sterile. Ornate. Cold. The elevator at the end of the corridor blinked open like an eye too tired to care. I stood in front of it for half a second, breathing hard, watching my own reflection in the brushed metal doors. I looked like someone who'd just ruined something. Or maybe finally survived it. I turned away. Took the stairs instead, 3 flights, fast. My hand skimmed the rail just once, knuckled white. Each landing felt steeper than the last, like the weight I carried inside his office was getting heavier the further I got from him. By the time I hit the lobby, my breath had gone shallow and hot in my chest. The security guard didn't even look up. The front doors groaned as I pushed them open. Then, cold. Rain slapped my face like it had been waiting for me. No warning, no build-up. Just sheets of it. Fast and furious, soaking through my jacket, my shirt, my skin. The kind of rain that felt personal. The kind that wanted to remind you what it meant to feel. But I didn't flinch. Didn't stop. Didn't check to see if he was watching from a window. I kept walking. The city blurred around me, smeared in neon and stormlight. All its noise turned to hush. My shoes hit puddles. My breath caught in clouds. Somewhere behind me, a door closed. Home. Final. And for once, it didn't echo. It stayed shut. Just like me. A few minutes later, the rain had softened into a drizzle. Just enough to sting my face, not enough to wash anything away. I walked, hands in my pockets, collar up, head down. 3 blocks from Peter's building, and I still hadn't stopped shaking. Not from cold, not from fear. Just the sudden silence of it all. That's when it buzzed. My phone. I didn't want to look, but I did. Come see me. Once. I won't ask again. That's a promise. I stared at the message and kept walking. 1 more block. 2. Then I heard it. Footsteps behind me. Fast, uneven. Johnathan. I didn't turn right away. I knew that voice. I knew how it could sound like velvet or razors, depending on the time. He caught up to me, breath visible in the cold. No coat, just a thin sweater, soaked through in a look I'd never seen before. Not Peter the collector, not Peter the threat, just Peter. I said I wouldn't ask again, he said. So, I didn't. I came. I didn't speak. He looked like he wanted to, like he'd rehearsed something, but the words didn't arrive. Instead, he pulled something from his pocket, held it out, a key. Small, plain, warm from his palm. My lawyers, he added. They finalized everything. If you want out for good, it's done. 1 signature. I glanced down. And the key, I asked? A drawer, he said. Empty. I huffed a laugh, bitter at the edges. Figured you'd offer me a penthouse, a car, something shiny. Peter shook his head. I offered you too much already, and not the things that mattered. I took a step forward, just enough to catch the way his eyes flickered to mine and didn't look away. And there it was, that unspoken thing again. Fear, maybe? Regret? Or worse, hope. I didn't fall for the money, Peter. I didn't even fall for the power. He blinked, like he hadn't expected that. I breathed in steadily. I fell for you, I said, and I hate that. I hate what you turned into. His jaw clenched like he wanted to answer, but he didn't. I took the key, held it, turned it over once. I felt the shape of it settle against my skin. I placed the key gently back to him. Not yet, I said. Peter's hand lingered an inch from mine. He didn't move, didn't argue. You're still mine, he said, But it wasn't sharp this time. It was soft. Almost afraid. No, I said. I'm mine. And I let the key go. Then I turned. This time, I didn't walk away angry. Didn't flinch. Didn't burn. I walked away clean, and the rain kept falling. A week later, I didn't go back right away. Days passed. Quiet, slow, punishing. My apartment had never felt emptier. The windows didn't let in enough light. The air never warmed, no matter how high I turned the heat. Even the coffee tasted different, like it knew what I'd lost. I tried to work, tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. Not the polished, calculated version. Not the man behind the desk. Just Peter, holding out a key with shaking fingers, saying nothing when I walked away. I told myself I'd made the right choice. I said it over and over, like repetition could dull the bruise on my chest. Like logic could make me forget the way he looked at me. Afraid, hopeful, human. But love doesn't follow rules, and sure as hell doesn't care about clean exits. Because the truth clawed its way back in, hour by hour. I missed him. I wanted him. And somewhere deep down, maybe I still believed him. Not because of the key or the clean slate. Because when he said he loved me, I believed that too. And when I finally stood up, grabbed my coat, and stepped out into the street, it wasn't an impulse. It was a decision. A soft, terrifying, honest decision. Peter always left the lobby unlocked, just in case he'd said once. I used to think it was for deliveries. Maybe it was always for me. The door gave me resistance, no fanfare under my hand. Just quiet, familiar. Like the way you breathe when you finally stop bracing for the fall. The elevator creaked like it remembered everything. 3 floors up, one last chance. I knocked. No key, no warning. Just me. When the door opened, Peter was already there. No armor this time. Just a hoodie, damp curls, bare feet on polished wood. His expression flickered the second he saw me. Hope, caution, want. Like I was a storm he dared to pray for. I don't think, he started. I know. I stepped inside, not because I was invited, because I chose to. Peter stood frozen, like touching me might undo the moment. I'm not here because of the key, I said. I left it, remember? He nodded. His jaw clenched, then eased. You came anyway. I came because I'm done running from what I want. He stared at me like he was afraid to breathe. I stepped closer, close enough to feel his warmth, close enough to end this standoff. I want you, I said, and I hate how long it took me to admit it. Peter's eyes shone, not with tears, not quite, but close. I love you, he whispered. I never stopped. And that did it. I grabbed the front of his hoodie and kissed him. Hard, desperate. Like we'd been choking on everything we never said. He kissed me back with both hands in my hair, and a broken sound in his throat, as if he couldn't believe this was real. His mouth was hot and hungry, but reverent, like he was still asking. And I gave him the answer in every pull, every press of my lips against his, because this wasn't surrender, it was power. When I finally pulled back, I didn't let him go. This time, I murmured, breathless, forehead resting against his. We do it my way. Peter laughed under his breath, shaky, relieved. Whatever you say. You're lucky I still want you. You're lucky I'd let you lead. I kissed him again, slowly now, like a promise. His arms came around me fully, and I let myself melt into them. And this time, I stayed. Because love isn't a debt, it's a decision. And tonight, I made mine. Now lock the damn door, I said, with a smile against his lips. I'm not leaving again. Conclusion. 3 years later, the games were over. No power plays, no second guesses. Just mornings tangled in sheets, coffee brewed too strong, and Peter kissing my temple like he still couldn't believe I'd stayed. We argued sometimes, but now it was about groceries, not trust. I kept the key on my nightstand, not because I needed it, but because I remembered what it meant. What we meant. I used to have an empty drawer. Now, I had half the closet and a hand always reaching for mine in the dark. We weren't perfect, but we were real. And we were each other's on our own terms. The end. Do you believe that love can fix something that started broken? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.